All right, good evening, Holliston. Welcome to the November 30th, 2023 meeting of the Holliston School Committee. It's crazy that it's almost December, but here we are. So we'll just do the consent agenda real quick, and then we'll take Jess out of order. No.
We do. Yeah.
So motion to approve the consent agenda, which is just the minutes from our last meeting.
Moved by Cynthia.
As amended, I had one quick amendment. Just
Okay.
I was remote for the first 90 minutes.
I gotta find
Lisa
it.
changed it.
Okay.
Finally get it.
Okay, as
See
amended.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. That carries. And so we will move down to personnel and I guess a presentation or at least a conversation. About a student services coordinator.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to throw the slides up from. You can start and I'll
Okay.
throw the slides up.
So thank you for having me and putting me first. So I just wanted to talk, I know you've heard me talk a lot about over the past year or so that I've been in this role, just the number that is growing and the demand that's being put not only on our teachers but also especially I'm here for procedural assistants who I think sometimes we forget about that do a lot of the legwork of getting things ready behind the scenes for our special education students and staff. So I just put some numbers together because I figured you would want to know, and it shouldn't be really a surprise. These are numbers that I've presented or Kelly has presented in the past. We're looking a little bit stagnant in that IEP number right now, the same across, but I think what we're not looking at, which is in the next slide, is the amount of initials that are coming up. The next slide, this slide shows the amount of meetings that are taking place, and I think what I am looking to do is to give a little more time in the buildings to procedural assistants. So right now, they are all at a 0.5. So between Miller and Placentino, we have a 1.0, so a 0.5, but the same person does both roles across, which brings her to a 1.0. And then we have a 0.5 at Rams and a 0.5 at the high school. What we are starting to see an uptick in is really outside evaluations coming in, translations and interpreters that need to be scheduled, and then lots of amendments and progress meetings that are coming forward that do take a considerable amount of time for procedural assistants, as you can imagine, to organize and pull outside providers together, interpreters together, staff together, and most of the time our SSAs need to be included in that. So they are working around the clock, and what I wanted to do, if you want to just flip the slide, is just sort of outline where they are at with all of the things that they need to do in 20 hours a week. And it is really becoming a place where it's almost unattainable for them to do it. And what I don't want to see is them taking work home. That's just not how I want to do things. I know that's not how anybody wants to do things, but they are very aware of compliancy issues and wanting to make sure we're hitting our timelines, things are getting out in a timely fashion. So what I am proposing is almost twofold. So taking the 1.0 position that I have at Central for my procedural assistant, essentially, and dividing that up across the buildings to bring them to 0.75. This would mean that the Rams and the high school would be a total 0.75 in each building. And because I have a person currently in the position doing 0.5 at Placentino and Miller, we would essentially need to add that as another 0.5. So it all totals out to 0.75 across the building. And then I would like to propose, and I know this has come up in years past, we've talked, or my predecessors have talked a lot about an out-of-district coordinator. Our out-of-district numbers are at a high of 50 right now, some of which we've inherited from other districts in move-ins. We are working hard to get those numbers back down, but you can imagine it takes lots of resources and training in district to be ready to accept those kids back. To be more cost effective, what I'm proposing is that we make it more of a coordinator position So it would be essentially looking at some clerical work, but also really diving in and helping with some of the, and I've outlined it here, yep, you have it up, helping with some of the tiered focus monitoring and circuit breaker, that grant and budgeting, and really working with our procedural assistants in that special programs that we're launching to make sure we're really staying in compliance. So as I'm looking to take a little bit of a lift off the SSAs, and I've taken on the bulk of out of districts, I'm trying to be cost effective in that we're not bringing in somebody that I would need to almost place as a team chair at a higher rate. I would look to have more of a coordinator that's going to help me sort of run the show without needing that special ed background per se and that licensure. At a 1.0, it would be a salaried position, and it would be a full year position. They would have to have some knowledge of, obviously, all of the laws and requirements, the compliancy issues, have work in budgeting, hopefully come with special programs knowledge, or at least something of that similar type, and work with me on all of the out-of-district coordination pieces without having to run all of those and chair all those meetings. So if you want to just go to the last slide here, just I sort of have put it in black and white for you to see. I do, and I've made this clear all along, even to our procedural assistants, is that we will definitely revisit whether that needs to stay at a 0.75. We've seen years of it going up, going down. It's been a 1.0, it's gone down to a 0.5. We're trying to bring it back to a 0.75. We are trying to, work the clock with COVID and getting things back on track. So my hope is we'll get into a better place and may not need that forever. But I did want you all to be aware that I'm very cognizant of, not overspending and making sure that we're putting our resources where we need to put them. So that is it. Questions or anything?
Also in your packet is the job description that has been created, and
Yes.
that's really the reason we have brought Jess here tonight, also to answer questions, but also with the hope that you would approve the job description so that we could then post that, because we can't, until we post and see any internal candidates for that,
Yep.
that would determine who might apply also for the
procedural assistant.
Right, because right now we have someone in the 1.0 at the district level who is entitled to that position at the building level. So depending on who internally applies, there could be some shifts, and then we would open the portions that are on.
So financially, does this come out of favorability, or how do we pay for this?
For this year, we would use some of our favorability because it really is going to become more of a compliance thing if we don't do something now. I mean, we're at the point of probably more needing an assistant director of student services, but again, being cognizant of finances, we're trying to keep it at a lower cost than an administrator, a full administrator would be. And we think we can manage. Again, we may come back in another year or two and say we really are, but we're hoping we can manage this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the student service coordinator, would they be attending meetings, or that would still be the SSA?
No, that would still be, for the out of districts, would be me, right? So the SSAs do have some, I don't want to take all the credit, some out of districts, but I have 2 brand new SSAs, so I really was trying not to be too heavy on them. So this person, though, would coordinate everything for that. So if there's testing, they round up the team for me. They contact the out-of-district, set up the meetings, make sure that all the consents, everything is going out in a timely fashion. We're getting those returned signature in a timely fashion. So.
Yeah, and some of the other, a big change has been the transportation has become really unmanageable, and this is not unique to Holliston, districts are not able to find transportation. So what happens is someone moves in, we're calling 10 million places, and that's falling on this role because you can't manage it anymore.
No. Yeah, I think we work with at least 6 transportation companies. So just trying to manage that, keeping the cost down as much as we can. We just shifted from a livery service where kids were on limos, and that was really not cost effective, but to transportation companies back to where it is more cost effective. But it took a lot of myself and Michelle really shopping around and looking for that, and just calling.
And circuit breaker is another area that we've been able to get more funds
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
And
Yes, we
you
did
want to
well.
shift some of
Yeah.
that work to the coordinator role as
Yes.
well, because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, yeah. So,
Yeah, so, I mean, as someone with a kid on an IEP and very familiar with how all this stuff works, way more than I would like to be, I think this is sorely needed, and I'm very happy to support this, and I hope that, we can, as we start thinking about the budget for next year, I want to make sure it's having a strong SSD and SSA is everything to parents, especially when you have a kid who's struggling. So I want to make sure we don't burn out the people that we
Right.
have.
It's a huge
And
issue.
so I appreciate that you're, being cost conscious, but I think as we go into next year, I want to make sure that we have a model that's going to be sustainable to keep the people we have, because you have a good team.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this having a person who is in a role of an out-of-district coordinator has been one of our initiatives list for, I don't know, how many years? 5, 6.
Yeah.
That can just keeps kicked.
Yep.
And back when we were requesting it, I think our out-of-district placements were at like the 30-something.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're, at 50. I mean, that's just, and all the work that, I don't think people understand how much work it is just to follow up with these individual kids, and that work is really important.
Yes.
And each of those kids is more complicated.
Absolutely.
More
It is
The
more
amount of
complex.
paperwork that goes into that.
Absolutely.
Sending referral
So much
packets out and-
paperwork.
Yeah,
Yes,
there is
yes.
a lot. Yeah.
Yes, and then all of the other, backfilling that you need to do as we recover from COVID to make sure that we have services, because we do want as much as possible to bring kids back in the district
Yes.
if that's the appropriate place for them to be. And so, and I think we'll continue to do that as we can, but this is, I'm happy to support this. I think it's something that we've definitely been looking to have in some capacity to
Yeah.
support the work you're doing, so
Thank you.
thanks for bringing it forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick question on the slideshow in the first one.
Yeah.
What is, I just want to make sure I understand this. Under FY24, it says 12.
Yeah.
And what is the difference between student on IEP private placed and then
Yeah.
out-of-district placement? What does that mean?
Yeah, so these are students, so we're still responsible for students that are either homeschooled or a parent pulls them from the district and places them
Oh,
somewhere.
I understand.
Yep,
the
so
placement-
we still are responsible for their IEP, meeting those timelines and providing service. And so I
Even
always want to.
private school?
Yep, yep, yep. So I always want to be aware of those kids too and not miss that, because our SSAs and I cover those as well, as do their
Are we
procedures.
we were truly at 0 in FY22?
No, I
We
just didn't
collect
have
the
that.
data.
Yes, I
Okay,
did not have that
understood.
because it was.
And I know, it's really helpful to me that you're able to show this data for 22 to 24.
Yeah.
And I am cognizant of the trajectory upward
Yeah.
on IEPs and out-of-district placements and
Yeah.
ELL students and 504s. What about before? This isn't a COVID blip, but we're on a trajectory up, correct? We didn't, were we worse in 22 than we were in 18, 19, 20, like leading up to it, or?
I could go back and get that for sure. I didn't want to overwhelm
Yeah.
people with too much
We were
data,
still
but that's a
hovering
good.
You can never do that.
30 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah, that 37, we
Yeah.
were hovering in that same.
I would say out of
But it
districts,
was
I can
moving,
recall,
yeah.
like just looking back at Meg's sheets, yes,
Yeah.
low 30s.
Low
we've been
30s, and then it's been going up.
And part of
since.
the work we're trying to do with, we added the position at the high school, which has
Yeah.
not been filled yet,
Yeah.
and, another position, and also with our counselors, a lot of the training we're trying to do is to keep kids in district,
Yeah.
right? So we're hoping this is sort of a COVID blip
Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
start to go down again, but
I think we have to create, and our continuums know this, we're working hard to make those solid, our transition 18 to 22 program solid, so that we can either keep or bring kids back, but feel, like you said, feel comfortable that we're able to do that. So I think that's what's best for kids, is not bring them back to say, we're not ready yet, you know?
So I'm really torn. I think that this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I have concerns about adding an FTE to staff at this point in the year with what we know is going to be a tough budget year next year. this is the problem is this is also hits where one of the areas that I really want to work on, which is so.
Yep. Yep.
Let me ask you this: so the procedural assistants right now are at 20 hours a week, so they're in a benefits eligible position already. Could they be offered 5 additional hours for this year, 10 additional hours for this year, paid sort of essentially with one-time funds, so we don't actually have to hire a new person for this year? It doesn't quite get you the coordinator per se, but it gets you more time to meet those statutory requirements.
We've been
But it's
doing that a little
also
bit, right?
it's also not but it's not adding to staff right now. We're also sort of we're a month away from going through a new initiatives process. We haven't seen what the other asks are, so we're going into a difficult budget year. We haven't seen what the other needs are across the district and within central office and all the different schools, and we're being asked to sort of add to staff now. It's just.
Yeah.
It's a real. I hate it because I think that this is a good initiative.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We have been piecemealing extra hours for procedural assistance because, like I said, I can't stomach somebody going to work at home and not being compensated.
Right.
So we've been doing that.
It's getting to the breaking point.
Yeah. Do I think it's enough? Probably not. Do I worry about our compliancy issues and the numbers increasing? 100%.
Well, how many hours are they working now? I guess
So they work 20 hours.
No, but I mean, what the real number that they're working when you're paying them for the extra time?
It varies.
Yeah, it varies based on building, right?
Oh,
So,
okay.
like you said, an extra 5 to 7 hours. Yes, is that enough? Probably not.
I think the other piece that we're worried about is that the people that are in the roles that are really good right now, that we're going to lose because of that factor, because some of them, even though they're being told by Jess, let me know if you need additional hours to get by, they're not putting in for those hours, even though we keep telling them.
Yeah.
So then now they are, I think,
Yeah.
but we found out that they may not have put in.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't really know.
Right,
And that's
right.
not fair. So,
So could we raise them to a 0.75 for make it clear that this is a 1 year? We're going to reassess sort of through the budget process, get them paid, get that work done, and then look at the coordinator. Look at. I'm not. I don't doubt. I think that the coordinator is, and probably the director of district placement. It makes sense. I just.
I hear what you're saying. I guess my concern really is I'm looking to be cost effective. If you look at every surrounding district, they have out-of-district coordinators already at a salaried rate of a licensed professional.
Right.
So we do not have that, and we're at 50 kids already. I also am trying really hard to help our staff rebuild continuums and take that time, and I can't possibly, I need help somewhere to be able to do it effectively and start to rebuild and bring back. So
as you recall, the last couple of years, we've had turnover in SSAs as well, and the reason that they've cited is they cannot manage.
Can't keep
And this
up.
is why she's taken off, but now we're overburdening. So something's got to give here.
And there's an issue with compliance.
It's compliance. It is compliance.
And that'll become more costly. If we are not in compliance, we will pay for it on the other end.
Kept pushing
But
this
hold on a
off,
second,
pushing
because
this off.
we have a lot of different needs like this. We have people coming to us and explaining to us that they're unified arts teachers who have 700 kids, and that's far too many kids. We've got.
Not a compliance issue.
It's not a compliance issue.
I mean,
It's an issue to talk about in budget.
It's an issue. to
That's
talk-
definitely an issue, but it's not a compliance issue, is all I'm
But
saying.
we're not. But so what I'm saying is increase the procedural assistance for this year to make sure that we stay within compliance, and then through the budget process take a holistic view of what we need, looking across all of the different areas.
But Jess can't take care of the compliance issues with
Even
the
with
out-of-district
that.
placements if she doesn't have the support to do that.
And if we burn out an SSA, or if we burn out one of the people who we really need right now and have to start over with all the staff
We're
turnover
talking about
that
6
we've had.
months.
But I'm talking.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I also, I agree with Lisa on that part, and I think I hear your concern, and I'm concerned about budget issues for next year as well. However, I think that creating this kind of piecemeal together, or maybe it'll be this for a year, and maybe it'll be something different next year, doesn't keep the valuable staff that we want to stay, right? I mean, they're in demand. They'll find something else if they don't have that kind of job assurance. So I don't feel comfortable going with that. I think she's made the case for this. I hear you on the budget issues, and I know there's a lot of other
But we're going to be
needs.
adding to staff now, not
We should have
knowing
done
if-
years ago.
Yes, that's what I was just.
But not knowing if we can afford it going forward. We're using one-time money that we're
We're gonna
getting and
use
then need
favorability.
to fund in the budget. We've got an extra special ed
And we
teacher
will-
that
I
we're
don't
gonna
think
need.
that Jess would be coming to us mid-cycle if she didn't need this to
I'm
be
not
happening now.
questioning
That's all I'm saying.
this is
No,
not
I
about-
know.
this is not
I'm just
about
saying that
questioning the
there's a lot of
need.
issues behind it.
And I think the compliance issue is compelling.
That's what it is.
And
That's
I
the only
also
reason
I
we
think that's what I
Yes,
would worry
that's what we're
most
talking about.
is when we
Yeah.
That's
go
the
through-
only reason we came now, because we don't see how we can manage
We
compliance.
go through the tier
which
focus
gets
monitoring
laws.
review, and
Yes.
we're not hitting the
And PRS
timelines.
complains and
Okay,
lawyers.
But okay, so and I don't mean to be difficult. I'm not an educator. I'm in finance, so it's numbers. It's all things on a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Help me understand why we can't hit our compliance numbers. Is if we're already giving the procedural assistants extra 5 to 7 hours, but maybe
That's
they're not
different.
getting paid for it because they're not putting in for it. We say, well, would you be willing to go to 30 for the rest of the year?
Dan, they're doing a different
No,
thing.
hold on a second. I'm asking Jess. I just
Motion, I'm just going to make a motion.
There's two pieces, I think. One is at the building level,
Yep.
the need for more hours for the clerical, and there's a second piece that we need a person that can do more than clerical, because we're overburdening SSAs, SSD, and there's just, I mean, Kelly asked for it before. We kept pushing it off. I told you not to push it forward
So
because the
did
budget, and here we are.
Yep.
And now it's bubbled up to the point that I don't know how we manage and keep ourselves out of legal issues.
I think what the compliance issue I'm most worried about, right? So if we did do the 0.75 on the buildings, right? I feel somewhat comfortable that that piece would stay okay for the rest of the year.
But not the
I
out-of-district
worry
placements.
the out-of-district that I have now taken
And those are the
on
highest need students.
is
Sorry.
is a lot to manage when, if that was my only job, if I was just the out-of-district coordinator, I probably could pull it off and be okay. But I'm not. I am the student services director, which means I have to do that, and then I have to also make sure the nursing piece is okay, our counselors are okay, literacy is okay. There's so many initiatives which are super important, and I understand you all want me to work on them, but I don't know how you do that and make sure I'm staying in compliance with the state and hitting timelines.
Just make sure just Sarah remains.
You guys have a question?
No, I get all that. That's why again, it's a really difficult one because I just think that it's.
And I do understand that. I know there is so much, and I know times are really hard, so I
Which is
would
why we
not
did
come
it.
forward.
I know.
This is not great timing, but I can see the writing on the wall, and I don't want us to get into a place as a district where that's an issue we have to.
No, and I
Dig
appreciate
up,
your
yeah.
expertise on this, and you know, and I don't think you'd be coming to us if you didn't need it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request.
Seconded by Lisa.
Okay, all's in favor? Opposed? It carries 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jess,
Thank you.
sorry. I think we're going to student representative.
Yep.
Right?
Thanks for having us. So for fall sports, they ended and winter sports are starting. Gymnastics, indoor track, basketball, hockey, swimming. And tryouts were, I believe, last week and some were this week, and teams are getting started with practices.
The musical Firebringer was a great success, and it was very much enjoyed. I really liked it, and I know a lot of other people did. Chorus and band concerts are coming up in the next few weeks as well. And on December 20th, NHS has their gift wrapping fundraiser where they are taking in gifts, and for a donation to the Holiday Dreams Foundation, NHS members will wrap your Christmas gifts.
And one really important thing, I don't know if it was district-wide, but we had at the high school was our Sandy Hook Promise training, where we talked about the anonymous reporting system that's just been implemented, and we watched a video and did some training on how we can be better upstanders and why it's so important to speak up when we're worried about things that we're seeing. And we just wanted to communicate that this is a valuable resource that, you know, hopefully we don't have to use, but we're glad is there if we need it.
Thank you.
That's great. And it's a great program. I'm glad that you were able to roll it out. And, school committee comment.
Nothing for me.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention one thing, that high school and is partnering with some local businesses. That they're going to be hosting a holiday bazaar on, let's see, December 4th. It's a Monday during the day at the high school, so people will be able to stop by and shop from like Aesop's Fables, Cheryl Cohen Mosaics, The Grapevine, Janine Jewelry Design, Soul Spirit Studio, and I think the class of 2025 is going to have spirit wear available as well. So just kind of head start on your holiday shopping.
I just wanted to offer a shout out to our new drama teacher, Miss Becky Smith, who I thought did a great job with the Firebringer musical, which I had never heard of until now. And I think that she did a great job coordinating. She was so good with her communication with parents and with kids, and I truly appreciate that. And I think the kids had a lot of fun, and I look forward to her next productions. So thanks, Miss Becky.
Nothing for me this week.
Just a quick shout out, there's a class of 2025 fundraiser this Sunday. It's dumpster day at the high school, so if you're cleaning out your basement or your garage or anything at all, come on over. I think it's between around 11 and 1 at the high school, and for a small donation you can get rid of all of that junk.
Love it.
So
We'll be there.
Just one thing for me, earlier this week, I attended an event at Temple Beth Torah, which is the anti-Semitism symposium. I know Dr. Kuska was there, which was really great. And I think that, I didn't necessarily agree with what the presenter, all of his positions, but I think what he did do a really, really great job about talking about is the history of anti-Semitism and how it's not necessarily as clear-cut as some other types of bigotry, and how even small things can sort of balloon into bigger things, and so that when we see small things, we need to address them and be firm with them so that they don't grow. I think there was a great chart that he had, which sort of says, you know, the sort of the those that have and those that sort of are oppressed, and over history, you know, there's a big gap between them. But for the Jewish people, it kind of goes up and down, because at times, you know, Jewish people have you know, are at the top. They're CEOs. They're doing really well in life, but then on a dime, it can flip. They can be seen as the scapegoats, and they can quickly find themselves at the bottom. And I think that, you know, it's one of those things where I think that it's not easy to understand. It's not to take away from other kinds of bigotry, but it's harder, I think, sometimes for people to understand that even those small things can be triggering and you know, really upsetting, because they see it as a slippery slope that can then lead to a quick and sharp decline. So I think you did a really good job explaining that. I don't know if the Zoom was taped, but if it was, I would strongly encourage people to watch it. It's about an hour. So
It was very informative.
yeah. So I was really happy that you were able to make it. I know it's 3 long days, nights in Holliston, so that was great. Okay, so now there's the public comment. I see 4 people in the audience. Are you all here for public comment? I know. Okay, so I know Jamie. Okay, so can we go ahead now?
Where do you want me to go?
Right here, yeah.
Hi, do I need to move it, or are we good? Or is that, okay. Jamie Gatone, I'm a high school biology teacher. I live in town, and I'm the HFT president. So I'm here tonight, namely as the HFT president. And thank you for sharing your comments about the anti-Semitism symposium that happened last night. I'd love to see if that was valuable, some of that brought into some of our professional development time. I think that would be really helpful. Speaking of how addressing those little smaller issues, things that we see, how that's important. Maybe our staff could benefit from that history as well. So I wanted to just briefly comment in response to the presentation that we saw with Ms. Beatty here. And this is more impromptu, and then I'll get to my actual public comment. In response to the presentation requesting a new administrator position at central office is one that is no doubt needed. However, I hope there is as much passion and advocacy for compliance when the committee is considering the needs of staffing that directly impacts servicing students. Our special education teachers are overburdened and they are leaving. And I'm sure they can tell you the areas where we are out of compliance in the classroom as well. I'm here today, this is my real comment, why I came here today, to formally request that the school committee consider scheduling a second staff day to the school calendar after opening day and before students arrive. The purpose of this day would be to obtain and read through IEPs, 504s, health plans, and other important information, and to consult with colleagues about how to best support students in need. Much goes into these initial days preparing for students, including reading all of the documents, charting their accommodations, connecting with the professionals who have worked with those students, and preparing our classroom spaces for their unique needs. Some of our students need some really unique things, particularly in the elementary level spaces that they need to have right away on day one. So we request that our nurses, teachers, and paraprofessionals be a part of this day to best prepare for our incoming students. This request has already been made to the superintendent in consultation, and we're bringing it to you today formally. So thank you for considering this request. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you might have. Feel free to reach out to me. And then second to that, I'm also here in support of my fellow colleagues who will be making a public comment next. Thank you.
I think we set the schedule is something we can talk about.
Hi. I'm always nervous at the microphone. People don't give me a microphone on purpose, so I apologize to everyone at home who just had to turn their volume down. But my name is Erin Acker. I am a third grade teacher at the Miller School, and this is my 25th year of teaching in the district. And I'm here this evening representing 22 out of 26 third and fourth grade teachers who are all concerned about the impact that the restructuring of science, which is scheduled to begin in January, will have on our students. For those of you who don't know, this past January, third and fourth grade teachers were informed that there needs to be an increase in science instruction in these grades. The rationale for this was completely reasonable. We're not meeting DESE's recommended number of minutes for science instruction, and we're not providing health instruction in these grades. So given this, you're probably wondering why science was ever designated as a special. Well, because Holliston is a world language school system. For more than 2 decades, it was recognized that science could not fit into the general education classroom due to the world language education that we're providing. So science instruction was provided through specials. And for this reason, children in grades 3 and 4 have received fewer minutes of science instruction in Holliston, but we've always acknowledged that what they gain is worth the sacrifice. Additionally, as I already mentioned, DESE recommends a certain number of minutes of science, but there's no mandated number of science minutes. We would also like to acknowledge that our current science teachers address all of the learning standards for science within the specials time that they have been given. Our administration, however, decided that there needed to be a change, so they developed a plan to remedy the situation. Their proposal was to transition science from specials to the general education classrooms so it could be taught daily. Then the current science teachers would transition to providing instruction in health, guided by standards that are currently only in draft form. This decision was not based on data from standardized testing, nor did it come from the Science Review Committee. Upon hearing this proposed solution, the majority of 3rd and 4th grade teachers had a number of concerns. At the core of these concerns was the impact that this transition would have on student learning in reading, writing, and math. Among many others, this proposal has the following impacts on our students. 1, our schedules this year were set up for the transition to science in January, so right now, the block into which science will fall is currently only a social studies block. In January, students will spend half of that time learning science from one teacher and the other half of that time learning social studies from another teacher. The result of this is that this year, students are receiving an average of 75 to 90 fewer minutes of ELA instruction and practice per week than they received last year. 2, our schedules this year have students receiving an average of 18 fewer minutes of math instruction and practice per week than they received last year. 3, as the 3rd grade schedules stand right now, students will only receive 21.5 more minutes of science instruction per week than they are currently getting. If this changes, which it may, the impact of that will be that children will gain 20 or more minutes per week of science, but lose 20 or more minutes of another content area. 4, it was agreed that due to the rich vocabulary that accompanies science, instruction in this content would be provided on the English side of the French immersion program in both 3rd and 4th grade. This means that the English teachers in this program will be responsible for providing instruction in reading, writing, spelling, social emotional learning, math, and science in the approximately 100 minutes of daily instruction time they have with each group. Given this, it is likely that the children in the French immersion program will actually receive only 5 additional minutes of science instruction due to this proposal than they're receiving now. 5, adding yet another transition, particularly in the middle of the year, could have the following impacts. Adding another teacher and another teaching environment could be a challenge for children who struggle with emotional regulation. Classes who do not currently have children with life-threatening food allergies will now have to add hand washing and desk cleaning practices to their daily routines to support classes in which there are life-threatening food allergies, as they will now be sharing a learning environment. The cost in this case does not seem to be worth the benefit. Naturally, we approached our administrators to discuss our findings and the challenges we felt were created by this proposal with the hopes of reaching a mutually agreed upon solution. We spent multiple hours over 4 bargaining sessions to try and persuade our administration to consider alternative proposals. In fact, as a group, 3rd and 4th grade teachers came up with several ways to increase science instruction that either would not impact ELA and math instruction at all, or would impact it significantly less than the plan that is set to be implemented in January. And these ideas were all rejected. Instead, we were told that we are resistant to change and to just give it a try because it'll be fun. Our concerns were consistently met with statements reflecting our administrators' belief that we just didn't want to teach science, and that's not true. Recently, another situation arose that gave us pause about the implementation. The 3rd grade teachers who have been designated as science teachers have been working on the first unit that we were supposed to present since the spring of last year. We just found out, however, that due to a miscommunication, the current science teachers have already taught that unit. Now, James Lavassier stepped in and he was amazing, and he worked diligently to prepare new units for us to present. He did it all. But we haven't been given the time to properly review the new curriculum that we will be presenting in 16 school days. All of these concerns I've mentioned have caused us to question whether we are actually doing what's best for children. We should have been an integral part of the planning process for such an initiative. Teaching has drastically changed over the 10+ years since our administrators were in the classroom. The 22 teachers who have read and agreed to this statement represent 351 years of teaching experience and 532 graduate credits beyond our master's degrees. We are the experts regarding what our students need, as defined by our experience and our level of education. We definitely felt that our expertise was not respected through this process. Although the idea of increasing science instruction is important and it's valuable to students, we believe that the current plan for increasing student learning in science is detrimental to the overall long-term success of our students. While we fully support the general idea, it is our contention that there needs to be a method of increasing science instruction that is less impactful to student learning in other content areas. So I sit here today representing 85% of 3rd and 4th grade teachers across all programs at Miller School, therefore to ask you as a school committee and the Holliston community to use your influence to delay the restructuring of science for this school year. Furthermore, we ask that you encourage our administration to work with us to find a solution that teachers and administrators together agree is in the best interest of children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're good? Thank you all. Okay.
For the people at home, I hate when we have public comment and we can't respond. Can you just like make the, tell the people at home that, these things aren't on our agenda, so we can't address them tonight, except, but, these are things that we could talk about at a future agenda or, what
Well, I
have
guess
you.
yes, so
Very well said, Lisa.
So right, so we don't have an agenda item, so we can't have the substantive conversation about them. Is there interest from the committee in getting an update on, from the administration on where we are with the science curriculum, with this move to science curriculum? Would you like to put that on the next agenda?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll do that. Thank you.
And in terms of the second day, that's something that would have to go through contract negotiations, the second planning day.
We can talk. We set the schedule. We can have a conversation about that sort of as we look into the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know the specifics of the contract and what we need, but yeah.
Thank you. I always feel so weird
Thank you.
moving from public comment back to.
Okay, no more intercessing time. Moving on.
We're getting close to the
your point.
8:17.
Okay, sorry. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay.
I'll shut up.
But thank you, Lisa. Central office update, Dr. Kuska.
The biggest thing I wanted to update on is we have our Holliston Coalition Against Hate and Bias on 12/6. So I'm actually meeting with the smaller group, town administrator and assistant town administrator tomorrow to finalize our plans for that. We have a good representation from the community for this first meeting, a lot of community leaders coming together. And then I think that our hope is that that meeting will then result in some meetings where maybe this group identifies other types of forums, a larger audience. But we're starting with a smaller group to try to get some of the ideas on the table. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the community leaders on the 6th.
And I'm sorry, who was that? Who was part of the group at this point?
So I'm not going to remember all of them without pulling it up, but we have the assistant town administrator, Holliston Youth and Family Services, Zoe Moreau from, is it HDAC, right? We have representation from the police department, Lieutenant Barrett. We have 2 faith-based leaders. I know Amanda and Sarah, I don't know if both of you are coming, but we're on that list. And then I'd have to pull up the rest of it, to be honest, and see who. Chief Cassidy, I believe, is coming for the fire department. And let me see, I can pull up the list of people. The select board chair, one of our principals, the Mark Frank from the rec department. Of course, I can't remember. We have Allegra Dennehy coming for CPAC. Not everyone accepted, so I'm not 100% positive, but a Holliston pantry was invited. So a couple of people have not responded, so I'm not 100% sure, but we have a good representation that are coming.
Do we have any student representatives?
That wasn't on the list for this time because we wanted to plan the next session. And it was really about community leaders coming together and then identifying are there other offshoots from that?
I believe we have some type of student group right now that is very similar in nature. Is it worth reaching out and asking for student reps? And I understand that's high school based, and I'm hoping there could be something similar at Rams. But because we've had these incidents within our school, it feels like having a student rep and their voice there, and then for them to be able to bring back ideas at the building level as a student might be really important too.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, this was a group decision, so I'll bring that back to the group. I do think there's a place for it at some point, whether it's the first meeting or not. I just don't know what it looks like yet because we're just rolling it out. So, but I certainly, when I meet with the group tomorrow, I'll bring that to their attention.
Yeah, I just like to say the Hate Prevention Council is the group within the high school that deals with the hate speech and various, and just kind of ending hate. And
Yeah, and what I could envision happening is that maybe this group might invite the group to come and speak to, you know what I mean? I just don't know what that looks like yet, because it's the first time we're rolling it out, but I do see a place for that. I don't want to speak for everybody else at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like those two groups have very similar goals, so
Yeah.
should definitely be working together closely.
I'm sure we'll be reaching out shortly. Oh, that's all I have for today. Sorry.
Hi, on Monday, I will be sending out another invitation to join our community math forum and what do we call it? The math curriculum night and community math forum. And we will be having on December 13th, begin at 6:30. It will be held in here. HCAT will also be recording it. They'll be talking about, we're going to have committee members talking about the work that's already been completed, the pilots that teachers are doing both at the high school and the elementary schools, and then having a conversation with the community and receiving their thoughts. In that invitation, I'll also be sending out a link to a math survey. So we'll be using those results. So everybody please come. December 13th, 6:30 in the library.
So the invitation will have a math survey, and is that?
The invitation what?
We'll have the link.
invitation
Yes, the link to the survey.
And
Yes.
will you have that survey data by the December 13th to talk about, or is that something to present here?
No.
No, okay.
No, we will not have it by the
Okay.
13th. Yeah.
I did forget, I know Sarah, you already mentioned this. Oh, no, it wasn't Sarah, it was, did you? I'm blanking out. Saki had mentioned the Sandy Hook Promise. So I did send something out tonight to the community, because we'll be also doing that at the middle school in December. So it really is meant to be a 6 through 12 initiative, just because of the age of the students. But I shared the link. It's going to be on our website now that we've rolled it out to the high school students. And it's just definitely one other tool it's 24/7 where someone outside of the district is monitoring this. So if a student or an adult heard of some implicit threat of a student harming themselves or whatever it was, they can anonymously report this, but they do have to give information to make sure that it's a real possibility, because the police might be called or administrator might be called. But it's a great program. It took us about 1.5 years to get it rolled out, because there's so many people, because it's a nonprofit and it's free to us. So again, it's another initiative that we're trying to forge ahead for safety, and I'm optimistic that we finally have this in place, and we'll do some preventative work as well.
So the information, like a screenshot or something like that, is that what they would be looking for?
Yes, they might upload. Yes, if you saw some dangerous things
Online.
Yep, that can be. There's a little place. I sent the link out tonight, so if you go into the
I was
link.
a little scared to push it.
No, it literally just is like an information. It's like an electronic form, and at the bottom it says if there's anything you can upload to add to your complaint or threat.
And where would someone find, so I know it's within the email that families have received now, but where would you find this 3 months from now? If you
It's going to be on the website, but it hasn't been housed there yet, so I will send something up.
It's on that.
Is it on there now?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just tell you where it is.
Because it
It's
didn't go
under
live
student
until today,
services.
but I wanted to get this
At the
out.
Holliston High School website, it's on Student Services, and it says, "See something, say something."
Could we maybe consider putting it on the front page? as a button. It doesn't
Yeah,
need to
it's
be
not
up
a
top.
button. It could be a button.
a link,
I suppose.
right?
It's a link.
But
yeah.
maybe just a button or a link.
I absolutely ask it, again, it was just rolled out, so I will.
No, I'm just saying, just
feedback.
consider it. Just,
I think that's a great idea. We could probably link it in 2 places.
I mean, if something's happening, people are probably already,
And then my other ask is when you go to our website, there's a search button. If we search for see something, say something, or Sandy Hook Promise, or other things that would be obvious to pull to it, could it get you there too?
Yeah, if he probably have to put it as a drop down. I'll work with Dan on that. I'm sure we can come up with something. We hadn't kind of vetted that piece yet. I think that's
Yeah,
important to
no,
make sure
it's the
it's in the
next-
right places and accessible.
John, you done?
Yes, I am.
Does anyone want me to do a keep the day impression?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to reports from the subcommittees. Communications.
Communications is not bad.
Okay. Policy.
We just met today, and when are we meeting next? 13th? Yes. Our next meeting is December 13th at Central Office. It should be 4:15. I can't get there at 4:15 to 6. And I have nothing tonight for our policy.
Budget.
Budget met on November 21st. Our next meeting is on December 12th, I believe, although that's not completely firmed up yet. And we went over a few items, including update on FY24 budget, began the discussion regarding our FY25 budget. We had a brief discussion on facility usage and rental, right, as Keith continues to look into that, and where they were able to open up and rent the bathrooms along with Holliston youth football. But to expand beyond that, right, he's working on quotes should groups be interested in additional rentals. So it's still something, we're kind of keeping an update on with budget, and then I would anticipate maybe an update in January or February to the full committee about those assessments. Really, other just little pieces, updates on, some tree removal projects over by the track, and then the capital projects that have been ongoing, like the roof at the Placentino Miller cafetorium area, and how that was near completion. But then there's also the skylight project there, like 40 skylights.
A lot of skylights.
A lot of skylights, and then the back orders on that and the work progression on that. Additional discussion about the Holliston High School auditorium wall and where we stood with that. You want to give more details on that?
I think it's complicated.
Yes, there's an engineering issue that engineers review the plan that gets presented before the build happens, and there were some issues with that, and that's part of the holdup. Do I think it's not so? We're working on it, and we'll have more of an update in December, but I think at this point it was still under review.
It's more
and then
complicated than
edited.
we thought. Essentially, so a contractor came in to kind of give us an estimate of what they thought it would be, but then once they brought the engineer in to actually do the work, the engineer said, actually, you need some supporting rods and all this kind of stuff, and so it's out to bid.
I think it was early December.
And so hopefully we'll have some information, but it sounds like it's going to be more expensive than we
But
thought.
we don't know that yet.
But we don't know if
because
we
don't
should.
have the bids. But that is the update and the reason why it has not started yet. So in December 12th.
So with Minnie out, I'll do superintendent's evaluation. We met with Dr. Kuska last week. We provided, Cynthia and I provided some feedback on the draft of her goals, and I think you're working on getting us a renewed or second draft.
Yes, I actually was trying to coincide it back with my, I was supposed to meet with Jim Marini today. It got postponed until Monday, but we're trying to work electronically to see if I can get it to you sooner, but it should be no later than Monday, if that's okay, because I really wanted his feedback as well. So.
Thanks.
And once we have that, we'll schedule another meeting. Okay, I think we can say that we've done the update on the coalition, unless other people.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's.
No,
yeah, I forgot it was there.
it's fine. Is there any update just on the sort of the equity audit steering committee?
I did have a little information, so let me pull that up. Hang on a second. Jerry L. was unable to come tonight, and he said he's going to be giving a more
and we don't need him
extensive, but I can give you. But I give you just a couple of things. I mean, he's getting close to launching. He's tentatively. I know. Let me see if I can pull it up in my emails. He's getting, he's looking to either the 11th for the first steering meeting, but he's still trying to make sure he's got the right representation. He's been meeting with some students and different people to try to make sure he's got people that are really, invested and that would be very helpful for this work. So if he can't make the 11th work, it'll be sometime in early January. And then just let me see if there's any other things that he wanted me to share with you. He's also looking at, so right now he's looking at potentially, I think, 4 parents, 4 educators, 4 students, an HYFS rep, 2 admin, someone from school committee, and himself. And then he's also looking for other ways to get voice, such as 3 focus groups. And he's thinking of 1 for students, 1 for educators and parents, and that the focus groups might meet 3 or 4 times. So he's rounding off the steering committee now and hoping to have that first meeting from 4 to 8 in person on Monday the 11th.
Okay.
But you'll see, obviously you'll get an update at the December meeting as to whether that happened and if there's anything that occurred.
And we haven't appointed a school committee member that we want.
No, I don't think you
Is that
have.
right? So I don't think we need to put anyone on the spot right now, but think about if you want one more thing on your plate, and then we'll get later, we'll have another opportunity for that.
I forgot another budget update. Can we hop back to budget for 1 second? And that is that we tried to lay out the timeline, and I just think it's important to discuss it as a general committee. But in our December meeting, Keith had talked about we could go over part 1 and part 2 of the budget, and then our January 4th meeting, the intention is to then do that part 3, and we always divide budget up. Part 3, the sped portion of the budget is the last portion that we go over, but that is the general timeline right now. And the January 18th meeting is the priority needs meeting with the principals. So get it on your calendar now, because we get there, it's something like 5 to 7. So January 18th, 5 to 7, priority needs meeting here with the principals, followed by our regular general meeting, right? So that's all preliminary to working towards our budget. But again, parts 1 and part 2 we anticipate for December. That December meeting will be a long one then.
Okay.
And then part 3 is January 4th of the budget, and then the priority needs meeting is January 18th.
Do we want to talk about the December meeting and whether we want to move it right now as part of this?
Sure. So at this point, we have our next meeting is scheduled for December 21st. We could move it to December 14th, but we wanted to talk to everybody about whether that works.
Well, what else are we going to have on the agenda for that? I mean, in addition to budget, do we have a lot
There's a
of other
presentation on
presentations?
rankings.
So we're working on the rankings.
I don't want to do paras and then that.
I know.
That's,
There's also the Holliston Drug and Alcohol Commission. I don't know if that's been to that. Just the 14th.
Well, I was going to suggest that we break it up into 2 meetings instead.
So you want to do the 14th and the 21st?
No.
Well, I don't, but I also don't want to be here till 11 both days after having a whole other.
I'm willing to do both of them and keep the 21st short, like try to keep like 1 presentation on the 21st.
That's
Well, I
not
think
short.
that-
One presentation is like
Well,
till 10:30.
Well, I think the only thing we have for because
not if Keith is doing it.
if we end up, the only presentation I believe is the rankings discussion,
Rankings in part 1 and part 2 of the budget.
which should be pretty brief.
We'll
Because we're going to be doing the priority needs 5 to 7, which is kind of probably going to,
change things a bit.
it's going to,
Priority needs is January.
Yeah, we're talking about.
I'm sorry.
December.
I'm in the
We're talking
wrong
about
date.
December.
I'm in the wrong date. Yes, I'm
So I don't
looking
know
at
what
stuff.
else is
So
on
you
the.
have a para meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Earlier that day.
on 14th.
Yeah.
Not that much earlier. So it's like scheduled for
It's
4:15 to
6.
6.
I would ask that you just leave it at the 21st then, if that's what I just think doing 2 might make it harder with the holiday season and give all the nights that people are here.
The 21st also could be advantageous.
Okay. It could be what? I didn't hear you.
Advantageous.
Okay.
Okay, so people are the consensus is to leave it at the 21st?
Can we meet next week and then the 14th? Or
I can't do
something
next week. I've already
Next
scheduled
week is-
so.
in December.
Huh?
I'd rather not meet twice.
Next week is the
I
first week
wouldn't
of
either, I
Hanukkah,
just
which is
don't
why
really
we
want,
moved.
yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. That's
so
why we
I
moved
plan
it
to
from where we were.
I'll let Dawn chair though, that's fine.
I think
I might
that,
have-
I think what I'm hearing is not 2 meetings in December, so.
Yeah, I know, I just
Okay.
didn't want it to be the 21st, because
We
it's,
could do the 28th.
That's why we
You
suggested the
probably
14th.
don't like this idea, but do you want to go earlier on the 14th so you could get out earlier if you come in earlier and start at 6 o'clock on December 14th?
Well, no, but
We have
I don't-
Paris.
like a bargain.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't want
they're
to,
finishing
They
that.
gotta eat.
yeah, I don't want to
No,
do
we
6
don't.
hours of back-to-back meetings. I mean, I wouldn't mind, I'm not against doing 2 meetings, just to shorten them, because I
Yeah.
hate when we have meetings that go to 11:30. That is so hard. I'm not
I
necessarily.
just don't know that I'm really getting all that information and being able to digest it when it's
At
after.
10:30 at night, it's difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys, if we do the meeting just on the 21st, we're going to be here till 11.
Well, we just try to be way, way, way more efficient.
I'm not, I don't know why you're assuming it's going to be that long.
And I
I'm
also think we
confused.
have some
Amanda,
flexibility.
it's only 8.
We could do our rankings presentation on the 21st, and then when Keith has to do parts 1 and part 2 of the budget, I'm not adverse to him only doing part 1 because we meet again on January 4th. And there's not a lot of time between December 21st.
There isn't.
So if we're running behind, we could kick part 2 to January
We
4th.
could keep both parts.
I
So-
think that's a bad idea
No.
because
We
I think
initially
the
had
budget
them
would
for
like to
3.
meet again before part
And
I know
someone
what
asked
it
to
is,
be,
but I-
no, I'm saying initially I think there was the part 1, part 2, part 3, and you
Yeah.
asked us to put them together. So special education is the second one. There really isn't a lot to it. I mean, the part 1 is really just the personnel line items, and it's not going to be that extensive. So we could move the special ed one to the January.
Yeah, special ed is the part 3 that would be on January,
part
but I
3?
think we could do 2 and 3 on January if we're running behind, right?
I'm just,
Who's doing the rankings?
Dan and Joni and myself are going to work on that. We're already working on it. It's not just
So can we
ranking, we're
just
looking
move
at
the 2 and
data.
3?
And
That's gonna be, I mean, I think there will be a lot of discussion.
Yeah,
That
so I
and-
think that I want to give it its proper due. So can we do 2 and 3 in January instead then?
Well, I don't think, we don't need to necessarily decide the
No,
exact
it's fine,
order
I
of what's
just-
on each meeting
Well-
tonight. I mean, I'm happy to get feedback, but I'm just saying,
Let's talk to
I think the important point is people want to keep the 21st, not move it to the 14th, and then we'll figure out the split of activities between the 21st and the 4th.
Do we want to try to start at like 6:30 on the 21st?
Wait, what if we started early on the 21st? 6.
That's fine. We could start
I
at
could start at
6.
6.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Get out
That makes
earlier.
sense.
Yes.
I'm sorry, so are we keeping the 14th?
We're going to change it, keep
No,
it
on the
21st,
We'll fill the time.
but make it the 6 o'clock.
Keeping the 21st?
Yes.
So that's the only one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Newsletter.
November 14th.
And so we're done with budget, right?
Yes.
For the second.
I'm just so confused about it.
Okay, and so the other one that I put on here, we don't necessarily need to do it tonight, but it's another thing that I sort of think it would be good to have someone involved in is the administrative contract. So we have a sort of a collective bargaining contract with the assistant principals, SSAs, athletic director.
That's it.
That's it. And there hasn't always historically been a school committee member present, but
Yeah, there has.
I thought there was 2, 4 years ago or
Yeah.
something? I thought
I was.
I don't know.
They're always, I mean,
there was the
I don't
change
remember. I
with
have never been on that one.
It's a non-union. The last time there wasn't that I know of.
I
don't think so.
Keith said it's been sometimes and sometimes
Yeah.
not. It depended.
I thought initially when I came on, it was part of what we did.
But I'm certainly not opposed to having someone. They have not reached out, but we have a lot of new people, so I think we may need to communicate.
It shouldn't be a heavy lift. I don't think they're generally too many meetings.
Famous about those words.
But I do think it's an important one that fits into a big puzzle. So does anyone have any interest?
who is it again? SSAs?
It's student services administrators, assistant principals, and
No,
which is a non-union bargaining.
And who, what was the last one?
The athletic director.
I'll do it. I don't mind doing it.
So I'll take a motion to appoint Lisa to be the HEAU contract liaison.
Moved by Cynthia.
Second by John.
All in favor?
Done.
No backsies.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. And
Okay.
with that, we're going to, if it ever opens, I think we're done with our agenda. We're in record time. We're going to beat Cynthia's 8:17. So thank you very much. I apologize that we're 2.5 hours early. But
Those who decide they
for all
shine
those who
later.
thought they had a night, planned around us,
Watch something else on TV.
I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Cynthia. Oh. Seconded by
For
Cynthia.
Lisa's, okay, so it's Amanda and Cynthia?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thanks,
Good night, all.
everybody.